Something in my heart keeps saying my someplace is here. Can't lose, not a single soul's denied. But you should do it, you would dig it, cause you get good news. Every trip is true and tried. Meet me on Swing Street, 52nd and Broadway, and we'll linger all night long.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Viva ENT. This is Johnny the Capo. I'm here with my co-host, Nina Khan, my producer, Mr. Eric C.C. Ryder, talent coordinator, Jerry Osborne. Such an honor and pleasure to have Deana Martin on our show today. I'm so excited, I can't even see straight.
What an effect you have on him, Deena.
Well,
I do that sometimes.
you know, the fact of the matter is that song was so dynamic. Deana, you definitely have the chops going there for sure.
Oh, thank you. Well, I inherited Dean Martin's voice and his name.
Like father, like daughter, right?
There you go. That is right. And it sounded so good. It's the first time I've heard it, on the radio. So that's I heard it over the phone, but that's the first time because it just came out.
World premiere.
You also got the looks,
great.
too.
Well, I think we get about 10,000 listeners on a on a Thursday afternoon, and this show is going to be played tomorrow again at 4 p.m. here on KKNW, and the show is also going to be played Saturday down in Tacoma, so you're going to get a lot of coverage. So in other words, yeah, I'm sure our listeners just love it to death.
Not to mention that it will be archived there forever on the website.
That's correct.
Yes.
Forever and a day.
Is so super. It was so much fun to do this album. I tell you, we were so lucky. Well, now I have to tell you, we recorded this at Capitol Records,
right.
Capitol Studios in Studio A.
The legendary.
Yes, that's where my dad recorded. And in fact, that's where I went with my mom when I was a very, very little girl to Studio A at Capitol Records. And I remember walking down the hallway with all the photographs on the walls of, Peggy Lee and, Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Bobby Darin. And we went into Studio A, and I sat there on a cold little metal chair with my mom, and I watched my dad record his very first #1 hit record, Memories Are Made of This.
Wow.
And so that's
awesome.
where I recorded this new Swing Street album, and it was so exciting.
Oh, my gosh.
Your dad's so proud of you.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
I bet.
I think so. I think that he would just love this and the song selection, but also that we have such great arrangers and, the arrangers, producers, the songwriters.
Absolutely.
So I thank you for saying that. That means quite a lot to me.
Well,
We
add to
second that.
I should add to that you have the looks, too.
Oh, well, thank you. They say you should always pick the right parents.
Absolutely, 100%.
Deena, I need to nudge you in one direction here before we get away from the Capitol studio.
Uh-huh.
My hat is off to you, and it's because unlike 99.9% of the music being recorded in recent years, you had every musician in the studio recording it live with you, just like Dean and Frank in the good old days, right?
Yes, and it was such a fun experience for me. Now, when you hear, when you get the album and you hear Bellissima, it's so fun because the band, the whole orchestra, when I say, pianissimo, and they all yell pianissimo, and they're all, they're not all the best singers, but they're the best musicians. And so to hear them, I kind of giggle when I'm singing the song, too, to be around all of these fantastic musicians and ask them to sing backup for me. It was just great. But, it's all about the arrangement. It's about being in that incredible studio with Patrick Williams and, Al Schmidt mixing the whole thing, and then Chris Walden. But these musicians, and a lot of them worked with my dad, to be there in that room with them, it was just, beyond belief. In fact, I spoke to Michael Bublé called while I was recording, and he had just come to L.A. for, I don't know what it was he was doing. He said he was just changing planes, and he gave me a call, and he told me, he said, I can see where you are. He said, I was just there last month recording my new album. And, and he did the same thing, put the microphone in the middle of the studio and just sang.
Cool.
Wow.
The thing is, that music, that style of music, it had so much dynamic. And what is, you got the great vocals going, and boom, you got the orchestra coming in with the horns, and the complete arrangement. It's like magic.
It is like magic, and to hear that and to watch the guys, and as I have a sizzle reel that will be coming out because we recorded it. They videoed the whole experience there, and to see these musicians, but to hear the interviews from these fabulous guys. And Patrick Williams said, I have assembled the greatest musicians in the world. He says, they're all here. He said, I really hardly have to do anything. He says, they sit there, they talk with each other in between, saying, are you going to play this? Is that a B flat or is that a concert C? He said, and they figure it out. And then he says, all I do is count it off, and then they take off. And it's true. They're just a professional, fun, exceptional musicians. So that's the way it should. That's the way it should be.
And those guys got the ear too. They got the ear. They know how to get to the to those arrangements and the magic.
So I have a question, Deena.
Uh-huh.
How was it to have Dean Martin as your father?
He was so amazing. What you saw when you saw Dean Martin on his TV show, tall, dark, handsome, cool, funny,
very handsome,
sweet, kind. That's who he was.
Right.
And he was just he was a hugger.
Aww.
He loved to. He would come in. He'd hug everybody. That's the way we grew up. But
it.
he was, to me, when I think about it, he was so funny.
Really.
And that he could make humor out of, and it didn't even have to be funny. It was just the way he would say it.
That's awesome.
That's who he was. But he was kind. He was, as I say, he was fun, and being at the dinner table at the, well, I was going to say on Mountain Drive, but with the Martins, 7 kids, mom, dad, and our grandmother lived with us for years.
Oh.
It was so funny because he would, maybe he would pick up the salt and pepper shaker and put them up like they were binoculars and he'd go, they're coming around the track. They're coming around the track. The salt and pepper's falling out of the...
That's the best
the
kind
shaker.
of dad you can ask for.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So he was fun.
How much influence did he have on your singing career?
Well, it's funny you should ask that because he influenced me quite a lot because he was just so amazing, and I loved his voice.
Of course.
But when I went to him and I said, Dad, I'd like to take, singing lessons, voice lessons, he said, why? Do you want to sound like everybody else in the choir?
Oh, my God. Okay.
And I went, and I was kind of like that. He says, get your own voice, Deena. He said, first find your voice, find out who you are before you do that because you want to have your own sound.
Right.
He said it's important for people to know who you are, otherwise you're going to sound like everybody else. And he did tell me, he said, you should be able to identify who the singer is, like within the first few seconds of a song.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Wow.
And but then, and I'm thinking that my dad said that because he obviously didn't realize or know that not everybody knows how to sing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I think it's because he had that beautiful natural voice.
Yes.
That he would. It was just. It was magical, and it was. He knows God given. But for us who didn't realize that we had that, we wanted to learn how to do it. I remember asking Frank Sinatra. I said, Uncle Frank, I said, as we were going to do. We were doing a show together, and we were going to sing. And I'm standing there, and I said, so Uncle Frank, how do you do it? How do you get that great tone? How do you sing? And of course, then he goes, well, Deena, it's all about the air. You're taking a big breath and you push from the diaphragm, and I can tell even before a note comes out if I'm going to be on pitch or not.
Wow.
I look at him because he gave me an answer, and I said, wow, does my dad do that? He says, no, your father has no idea what he's doing. And it's true. When I listened to Uncle Frank, he he worked for every note he hit.
Yes.
You know, I mean, he really did. He was unbelievable, and he taught me about phrasing,
Right.
and and timing, and learning the song, and living with it, and maybe not doing it the same way every time.
Right.
You know, and that's what I learned from Uncle Frank.
And
My dad could pick up a song and sing it, and it would just be gorgeous.
Effortlessly.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Frank, was exactly the way you described, and Dean had this wonderful tone to his voice. It was almost like listening to. The best way I can describe it is listening like to an angel singing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so smooth. It was so, and I know Jerry is a big. I know that Dean's Jerry's favorite singer of all time. But mine too. I got to tell you a quick story, Deena.
Okay.
My dad passed a couple of years ago, and one of the very last things that I did with him is I went in and we watched the Dean Martin roast, and we must have did it for like 3 days because I knew that he loved him, and I knew that I loved him.
Who doesn't?
But when I was looking at my dad's face during those shows, I could see the level of happiness. Mm-hmm. Those shows were so great and so entertaining that I wasn't. I was a little younger, of course, at that time, but I fell in love with what they were doing on that show. I loved all the entertainers on that show. Nipsey Russell. There was all those great.
Jonathan Winters.
Jonathan, Dom DeLuise.
Jesse White was on there.
Yeah.
All those great guys.
Foster Brooks.
Ronald Reagan was on there. Everybody, Frank. Everybody
Foster was never sober.
What's the point of being sober?
Bob Newhart.
Great.
Yeah. And when I think about it, it was so much fun to do that show. Although everybody, all of the singers, everybody who was doing all the skits and the guest stars and all the dancers, everybody, we were there all week rehearsing. Dad was not there.
Right.
He was on the golf course.
I heard.
But so we would, and Lee Hale, who was the music director, and he was the one who was amazing. He would wear a sign on his chest that said Dean. So he would stand in for my dad. And he knew how Dad would sing, and he would pick the songs that would be great. And so it would be Lee Hale who would do our numbers with us, pretending he was Dad.
Fun.
And it could have been, maybe it was Juliet Prowse. He was dancing with, but my dad did not rehearse. He would come in on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock after he played, 8 holes or whatever, a round of golf. And he would come in. He would read his cue cards. They would go through the songs with Les Brown and the Band of Renown. Then he would go out and do the show.
Such talent, huh?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else could ever have pulled that off.
No one could have. And, it's amazing that Dean had such success with that TV show, because where others, I don't want to mention any names, but there was other entertainers of that time, of his generation and of his time, great entertainers that could not match that success on TV like he did.
You're right, and I think it had a lot to do, of course, with his sense of humor. He was comfortable. People would love for him to come into their house every Thursday night at 10 o'clock because it felt like Uncle Dean is here. It's my crazy uncle. And then there were the beautiful the dancers, the gold diggers, and the Dingaling sisters, and all of the people who would come on and sing. And for me, I remember when I would do this show, and the first time I did this show, I had my first record out, and it was I'm trying to think, it was I think it was called The Bottom of My Mind or something, and I remember him making me feel so comfortable because I had recorded it on Reprise when he was with Reprise on Uncle Frank's Reprise album, and I recorded it, and I was of course nervous, and I came out and I sang a duet with Dad, and he introduced me to the audience. He said, "Yeah, this is my daughter." And he said, "So, Deena, you're not afraid or anything, are you?" I said, "Well, I'm petrified." And he said, "Well, don't be." He turned to the camera and he said, "Okay, ladies and gentlemen out there, don't pay any attention. I don't want you to make my baby girl Deena nervous or anything." And then I was able to sing my first song on his TV show. And I know that I would be out there singing Swing Street with him and these great songs that are on the album. And when he could sing with anybody, and I know he loved Ella Fitzgerald to be on his show, or the Mills Brothers, or I'm thinking Jack Jones, or Catalina Valente, all of the people, or Goldie Hawn. That one time was too funny when their skit. But all the people that he would sing with, it was amazing. He made everybody feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And so it's these songs that I'm singing on this album that people love. And of course, he had the Band of Renown with Les Brown. So we're continuing on with this tradition of excellence with musicians and musicianship. So that's what we're keeping it alive.
And that piano player was Ken Lane, is that right?
Yeah. And Ken, and he would call him Kermit sometimes. And Ken Lane is he's the gentleman who wrote "Everybody Loves Somebody," and that's the song, right? Jerry, that.
Oh my God! Ken Lane wrote "Everybody Loves Somebody."
Ken Lane wrote that, and it knocked the Beatles out of first place.
1964. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So that was Ken Lane, and he was such a good guy, and he was just fabulous. He would travel around with Dad.
So nice.
Deena, with all the talking about family, I don't want this half hour to go by without telling you how sorry we are about your loss of not only Ricky but Mama Jeannie too.
Yes. It's still a shock to all of us, but I have to say we had the best services for both of them. And for my mom now, because she knew she was sick and she had arranged everything, which is, I have to say this, and you'd have to know the Martins to understand this. She had arranged, and she's buried out there now at Pierce Brothers, near where Dad is. Pierce Brothers in West Hollywood, in Westwood in L.A. And my mom arranged everything, and she wanted the funny priest and valet parking. So these were this is what she wanted for everyone. She said, "I want everyone to celebrate." And so what we did was, for her service, we celebrated a life well lived.
Cool.
And it was just family. Nice. It was so wonderful. And I tell you, the priest, what was so great, he knew my mom. So he was able to tell stories that were funny. Because I remember her, when my dad passed, I remember her saying to, when Jerry Lewis stood up and he was going to say some words about Dad, and he pulled out a paper, and Mother said, "Oh, Jerry, please, don't make it long and make it funny." And he said, "Jeannie," he said, "I can't make it long," or he said, "I can't make it short, and I can't make it funny." He says, "This is too important right now." But my mother remembered that, and she said, "I want everybody to just celebrate and have a great time at my service." And that's what we did. It was, of course, the priest was. He was wonderful, and he sent us away with, fabulous warm feelings. But it was a celebration of her life, and so that was very nice. And then we had the one for, my darling brother Ricky, and they had a trio, and we had a service for him, and it was again a celebration of his beautiful life with lots of photos all around, and his daughters, and family. So it was. And he had a great life, so all of us, and we don't know how long we're on this earth for, and so we celebrate the time that we had with them.
And we count our blessings.
Yes, we do, and I've had so many.
You are a very lucky woman, and, it's a pleasure to have listened and talked to you today.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, wait till you hear this fabulous new album. It's going to be on your favorite, I don't know if you have an iPhone or...
iPhone it is. Who doesn't have an iPhone these days?
On iTunes or,
everything.
Whatever. No, it's great. And how amazing it is now to be able to just take around your iPhone or, your little player, and you can sit on a plane, you can sit anywhere, and you hear
all
this
the
great...
time.
and you can get anybody right there, and it's amazing to be able to have all that music. And technology, today is amazing.
It's fabulous. We're down to 3 minutes, Deena.
Uh-oh.
Anything you want to say during that time?
Well, next year, 2017, will be my dad's centennial. All right, so we'll be celebrating his 100th birthday.
Wow.
We are putting out,
Nice.
we are right now in the middle of recording a documentary. We're doing a documentary for him. We've interviewed, Florence Henderson and Bob Newhart, and so many people. It's going to be a great documentary about an unbelievable talent, is Dean Martin.
Absolutely.
Last year I did so many shows for Uncle Frank Sinatra for his centennial.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be doing that this year, and we're making my book into a movie.
Yes,
and
yes,
I'm
what about that?
celebrating this. Well, I know, and it's going to be. I'm taking my time with that. I want this documentary to be fantastic, but I want the movie to be absolutely perfect and respectful and wonderful. So we'll take our time.
Let's get you back on the show when you're ready to launch that, too.
Oh, yeah. But right now I'm just excited about Swing Street, the album, and being able to come on your show and do that and talk about all these great memories is an honor for me also.
I was telling my co-host and my producer earlier about the story that you told last time you were on our show when you met Elvis.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Can you say
At Paramount, yes. I went to visit my dad at Paramount, and this is when they had their dressing rooms, and it was right out. You'd walk out the door. It wasn't a hallway. It was right out of the parking lot.
All right.
So I was standing outside my dad's dressing room and with my sisters, and I see this man driving up on a bicycle, and I'm thinking, and as he gets closer, I realize it's not a man, it's Elvis Presley. It was like, oh my gosh! So he got off and he talked to Dad, and he said, "Are these your daughters?" And Dad said, "Yes." And he introduced us, and Elvis got down on one knee and he took my little hand in his. He had a big hand, and he looked at me and he said, "I love your dad."
Wow.
He said, "And they call me the king of rock and roll." And he looked me in the eye and he said, "But your dad is the king of cool."
Wow.
And I wanted to die. I mean, I didn't want to wash my hand. I just wanted to melt. I mean, it was...
That's the best moment.
That was Elvis Presley.
I'm out of time,
Presley.
Deena. Tell our listeners about your website, your Facebook, everything real
Love
quick.
you, Deena.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, come on to DeanaMartin.com, and you'll see where I am, and come see one of my shows and get the album.
I will do that.
Jerry, who's on the show next week?
The return of Jean-Marc Gargiulo, because he didn't get a chance to tell everyone about his meetings with Elvis.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Viva ENT. Our guest has been Deana Martin. We'll dig you now and see you later, because you're a fine sweet potato. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jerry. Love you, Deena.
52nd and Broadway, and we'll linger all night long at Roseland, where the big band wails and the brass sure can